So I assume you know why you're here. It's okay. You're safe here. You can tell us what happened.
It was all a game to him. He didn't care.
We really like the idea of using subliminal messages in order to create a little bit of enigma within the trailer. We really wanted to develop this convention as we knew it was used quite a lot in horror, but it's also used in other kind of genres of films. We took the idea from films such as Fight Club, made by David Fincher in 1999, and most of the Final Destination films, which are recorded at various dates. In the Final Destination films, subliminal messages are used to show the actors' futures and how they might die. We want to use the sort of same idea as a flashback rather than forwards to sort of create an enigma to what might happen in the film. We really like the use of the idea of subliminal messages, and looking at Final Destination series, we wanted to recreate this idea, but we didn't want to give it too much away to the audience, so a high amount of enigma is created. We decided that Fight Club used subliminal messages the best because they were quick enough to give off enigma, but not enough to reveal too much about the film to the audience. So for our trailer, we recreated this idea with the use of subliminal messages by using quick clips like images and certain parts of the trailer. For example, when the final girl is speaking to the police inspector, a quick clip of the killer is shown to help the audience get a glimpse of what to expect.
For me personally, the main idea of the trailer is based around the idea of narration, and is told from the actual point of one of the survivors. There are many clear examples usually found in old classical films, especially in trailers, and I wanted to conform to the classic conventions and pay almost homage to the directors who made the trailers in the past. Famous films like Dawn of the Dead, made in 1978 by George A. Romero, Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, made by Wes Craven, and Friday the 13th, made in 1980 by Sean S. Cunningham. Personally, I love these kind of conventions, but my partner I worked with in the group wanted to make it a bit more modern, so we had to adapt the idea and combined it with the idea of an interview to play around with the idea and almost create a time to try and create enigma and help to engage our audience. To the narration, it gave more context rather than just an anonymous voice in the background, and this sort of links with the idea of the interview in a film like The Imitation Game. Therefore, we had to go against the convention of using music because we chose more to use a narration, and we thought the music might mask the actual voices too much. We felt that the use of a soundtrack will prevent the feeling of realism that we really wanted to portray. We did try different kinds of music, but we chose in the end just to use sound effects which were appropriate at the time.
Well, why don't you start from the beginning?
Okay, fine. We was walking home and we went our separate ways. It was awful. He must have captured us one by one, unless there was more than one of him. Basically, I don't know how he did it, but he did it. I just remember seeing blood spelling something out onto a tree, but I just don't remember. He grabbed me and covered my mouth with this awful smell, and before I knew it, I wasn't awake anymore. The others must have been grabbed after.
Sleep tight.
Fuck!
Hiya.
It's okay. Relax, breathe. Take it slow and tell me what happened next.
I remember flickering lights in the background, but I was just waking up, and that's all I remember, I swear.
We know that you know more, so tell us and you can go. I think this might change your mind.
No.
Listen, if you don't help us, we can't help you.
Fine. When I woke up, I was bound at the hands. I tried so hard, but I couldn't get out. He came in and checked that we were all awake. He was waiting.
Sorry, but waiting for what?
Waiting for us to wake up, so we could start playing his little game. That's all this crap ever was to him.
What do you mean?
He was waiting to play his favourite game.
Me and my partner, we were interested in the use of stag that we actually saw in horror films, a lot of recent horror films as well, like Unfriended, made in 2014 by Lee Van Gabriades, and Paranormal Activity, made in 2007, made by Oreen Pelly. Now these films have something in common. They're paranormal films. Films that have the idea of ghosts and spooks in them. So obviously it was something that was quite related to horror films, especially that subgenre, which was the use of static. The only difference is I wanted to add this effect, but it's mostly used in paranormal films, starring Paranormal Activity, and the reason for this is that whole film in that was filmed from the view of security cameras. So static is very well used in this case, as it really projects the idea that there is something else there playing with the security footage and messing around with it. Therefore, we had to be careful with what we put into the idea of the interview scene being filmed. It's actually helped me change over to the view of the killer at the very end. Clover actually suggested that in films like Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, the audience began by having a shared view with the killer, usually during the first kill, but experienced a shift in identification to the final girl during the trailer in this case. I didn't like this conformity, and I wanted to go completely against it, so rather than having the idea change and the shift starting with the view of the killer making a kill, then changing the identification to the final girl, I wanted to start with the final girl and then change over with the identification to the actual killer, and almost create a bit more enigma around him to whether he will survive, to whether he will actually be able to get that final kill, rather than if the final girl will actually survive. Well, my favourite game is Truth or Die.